Johnny here for Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, here to update you on your F-150, Bronco, or Maverick. That's mostly what I'm going to be talking about here because I want to make sure that you know what you need to know to get your vehicle the fastest as possible. I'm also here to share some really great news about the commodity mix, meaning how many vehicles that they're going to make in regards to the F-150, a little helpful advice, as well as the Bronco. So let's just jump right in. Of course, we'll be talking Maverick. So let's jump right in, put the pedal to the metal. First of all, if you've got an F-150 on order, here are some definite tricks, and they're not just tricks. It's black and white facts. If you want to get your F-150 as a 2022 and get it sooner, there's some restrictions. So they're not going to be building snow plow prep package. So that's on the restrictions list for both retail and stock orders. You'll want to remove that. You're also going to want to remove onboard scales because onboard scales are only available on XLT 302 and above. But that is on the restrictions list as well. If you can have the auto start stop removed, that's a new code. That's 52X in removing auto start stop. That's definitely going to help you get your F-150 sooner. And well, what's the common theme here? Microchips. Obviously, removing that is a matter of having less microchips, which can definitely help your order move forward. Also, wheel well liners. 96L is its code. So you want to definitely drop that when possible. What's that about? Well, that's just about, I guess, commodity issues, constraints, this whole, everything that's going on globally. I said it last spring that even plastic was constrained, and I had some people laugh, and that's fair. It does sound silly, but that's the world we live in. It's just facts, and that's what I'm here. I'm here to help out with the facts to help get things moving for you, because I've waited on a Bronco before, and now I'm waiting on a Maverick, and I want to make this as easy as possible for everyone. I'm Johnny from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, and well, I'm here to help. That's my goal. That's my kick. Now let's move right along. If you have a Nautilus, you'll want to remove the Ultra Comfort Seats 91Q because at this point for this program, it's not going to schedule if you've got those Ultra Comfort Seats. Code 91Q. You've got the Corsair Technology Package 53B. It's currently not available, so you definitely want to try to drop that off. Now let's get into talking about Bronco. Enough about that. But sorry, just really quickly finish off on the F-150. The whole point I want to make on this, and a really important point, is right now the commodity mix is generally going to be sitting around 3-4% for non-crew models. That's the big four-door. So definitely very helpful when you're looking about 96-97% of all F-150s getting built being crew. So if you have crew, that probably can help you get your vehicle faster. So if you're on the fence between super cab and crew, make that. Do keep in mind though, that if you already have a VIN and you're near production on the F-150, you're definitely not going to be able to make that kind of change. Now here's some news on the Bronco, the 2022 Bronco. Now I know a lot of you are probably thinking, some of you, not all of you, actually anyone who's following this channel isn't thinking this, but if you're new to this channel, you might have seen that, the Bronco is sold out for 2022, and some people understand that as being that they're not making any, and that's absolutely not the case. They're still making tons of Broncos, and, we're going to be getting some built for us May. So, there are Broncos being built. The factory is still working. Sold out just means that Ford's not going to be, Ford wants it known that they're focusing on the current orders in the system, that what they have in the system will definitely take them to the end of the 2022 production year. So why take more orders? Because some people, when they put in their order, they assume that they'll get the vehicle 2 months later. So that's just to protect everyone. So they're focusing in on our Broncos that are in the system. Now, if you have a wild track, I've got great news there. The commodity mix has gone up. When I last spoke about this, we were talking about 14 or 15%. Now it's gone up 14%. So what's really neat and what's really cool is to see that Ford is doing everything they can to try to address the actual demand. And yes, there was a huge demand for wild track. So that means Ford, when you're on the ordering side of things, working on contracts, well, you need to scramble and try to get the parts to get those wild tracks built. So it's gone up 14%. It's going to be sitting around like 29, 30%. So there has been a focus to resolve the delays with wild track. Now, there is one key thing to keep in mind, and the stats here that I'm going to share are going to show that Badlands is a good way. A Badlands soft top is a good way to get your Bronco sooner. It worked on my Bronco. Now Ford is suggesting that you remove the hitch. You can add that on aftermarket. Mind you, that's going to be a 4-pin hitch that you add on. It might cost a little bit more in labor, but you can always try to get your 7-pin later on through an adapter. Saw a great video from TFL where they worked on that. Now, here's what else is going on with the Bronco. Really, they've done a good job in matching the commodity mix, meaning how many they're going to be building in May, the distribution of what they're building in May, I should say. So exactly what kind of Broncos they're building in May addresses more what's in the system, what our orders are. So that means, yes, 2 doors have gone up significantly. Last time I talked about this, we were at 8%, and that has gone up, way up. So Ford's really focusing and trying to get through those 2 doors, the 4-door molded in color roof. That's also gone up. And do keep in mind that, there is a 49%, there was a 49% commodity mix, meaning that 49% of the vehicles that they would build in previously had gone up and was then at 49%. It's gone up a little, but Sasquatch is still something that, because of the extreme high demand, I can't remember if I saw this on a chart, that's something in around the 70% percentile asked for Sasquatch. But just a reminder, if you have a wild track is a Sasquatch, two models, 2 options that were high in demand. So if you go with Badlands Bronco soft top, you get still really great year-round all-terrain BF Goodrich tires. You'll end up with a Bronco like mine. I'm really satisfied. I've got I don't quite need the sway bar disconnect so far. I've only used it twice, but it's a good model. I just wish I would have ordered up those heated seats and keyless entry, because when it's really cold out, it's not fun having to take the glove off to dig around for keys to unlock those doors. So keyless entry on, really any Bronco that I do again in the future, I get the high package. Now for the Bronco, the locking front axle has also gone up. So Ford, all in all, they're trying to address where demand for certain models or options have been higher than expected, or not necessarily higher than expected, just more than what suppliers can meet. Because if you're watching Tim Bart's video last night, he pointed out a really good point, and that's that he was mentioning that he had news that 26 of the suppliers for Ford just didn't bring what they said they would bring to the factory. And it's something I've been talking about in the past when it comes to delays, that Ford aren't making all these parts themselves. I've said it in the past before. A lot of these delays are pretty much all of these delays aren't because the factory hasn't had people showing up and working. People are ready to work, the factory's ready to produce, but there's just certain parts that just don't show up in the numbers you need them to show up. So that brings us to the Maverick. Hybrids. Well, Tim dropped the news, Tim Bart's. So if you're not subscribed to Tim Bart's, I highly recommend it. Fantastic information. I did not get this information on my own, but I got it through Tim. He was saying that May production is going to be about a 50-50 split between EcoBoost and hybrid, and that's great news. And to help everyone understand a bit about the complexity of, the whole question, when am I going to get my Maverick? Well, we have talked about this in videos before. Copilot, Ford, straight from Ford's mouth, Copilot 360, that is constrained, so less coming into factory of what's needed to put that into a vehicle than the demand. luxury package, of course. And, I've been saying this since last June, any accessories, try to, you can pull them off your order and just have them put on at the dealer. There might be a small price difference because of, at the factory, often, it might be a machine that puts in the part, so you've got a little increased labor, the transport fees when you're just sending over one item is different than when it comes already in the whole truck. So there's going to be a slight price difference on those accessories, and that's fair and that makes sense. I can tell you that the cost at the factory versus the cost at the parts department isn't the same often, and then you've got labor to take into account. But for the Maverick, Ford's working really hard to get through June, July, and August hybrid orders, and that means one area, one region that had an incredible amount of hybrid orders might, let's say they get 10 Mavericks built for them in the month of May. Well, that could very well mean that 7 or even 8 of their produced vehicles will be hybrids, whereas in another region where hybrids weren't quite as insanely popular as they were in, Texas, Florida, California, that means like a region like mine, they could end up getting, 4 EcoBoosts and only 1 hybrid. And that's going to be based on, because Ford is trying to deliver these in, across, Canada and the US in a manner that means that they're, really focusing in on months, that it could mean that, for example, in the month of July in my region, that not as many hybrids were ordered versus EcoBoost as in other regions. So some regions will, you might see at your local dealer that they get, for example, 5 EcoBoosts and 1 hybrid. And that doesn't mean that the factory is only building, is building in that ratio. Not whatsoever. What I'm hoping is that, maybe Marie-Pierre's Maverick hybrid, XLT, luxury pack, and nothing else will get picked up. But of course it hasn't been picked up, and it actually has been passed previously by a lot of EcoBoosts and even a very, very simple mid-September hybrid XLT with nothing else on it, no accessories, really, truly nothing else except for the spray and bed liner. But because that was still much simpler than this luxury package back then that had the spray and bed liner, well, it got passed and it got delivered and showed up at the dealership the 23rd of December. And just recently, an EcoBoost Lariat all-wheel drive with luxury package, ordered the 27th of October, is going to get built April 11th. And that, a lot of this comes down to constrained issues. So I might sound like I'm repeating myself because I talk about this every week or two. And it's because these things get updated. Suppliers that have contracts can show up with less. So I want to give you the great news on the Bronco, and that's that they're building a whole lot more wild tracks. The commodity mix, the percentage of wild tracks that they will build, going up in May. So I hope and I wish for you all, more cars and more power. So I hope that helps you get passed along. That, in regards to the locking front axle, that's gone way up, and everything that's hard top, the 2-door has gone way, way, way up, and that there has definitely been a good increase on the 4-door molded in color roof. Simply put, the supplier for hard tops, Webasto, is clearly getting more hard tops to the factory. So great news. Now, I've said it in videos before, the factory is still currently making more Broncos than what they're getting in for tops, so that the soft top is still a fast track, but not nearly the way it was back last fall and early winter. So I hope this has been very helpful. Just remember, crew cab F150, that's probably going to go a lot faster, but try to keep your build simple. Try to put accessories on at the dealership. Avoid, or I should say take off, if you haven't ordered yet, avoid what I've mentioned on the F150 at the beginning of the video. or take it off if you currently have it on your order. I really do truly hope this video has been helpful. If so, please like and subscribe. It helps feed and dress a poodle. And well, it also helps us have a little bit of fun on the channel so that, you know, we can do what we just recently did, buy a drone so that we can get you all better footage, so that those car reviews can be a little more interesting with some better shots. Now, speaking of reviews, we've got our Maverick review coming up. You know, we towed with the Maverick. Now, Marie and I, very shortly, I'll be putting out the video, editing the video where we just drove around a whole lot that Maverick and really shared all our feelings about it, what we loved and what we, I don't want to say could complain about, because for the price we have absolutely no issues with the Maverick. We absolutely love it and we're really excited to get our Maverick, but of course we will point out as much as we possibly can on the model. So like and subscribe, make Winston happy, take care, and until next time, have a great week.